Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Newsbrowse News broadcast. UPI reports that U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio indicated a little bit of movement in peace talks with Iran on Friday, but crucial sticking points remain. Speaking at a NATO foreign ministers meeting in Helsingborg, Sweden, Rubio reiterated that Iran must never acquire nuclear weapons, which necessitates addressing the issue of uranium enrichment. Another contentious point is Iran's attempt to establish a tolling system for the Strait of Hormuz. Rubio firmly stated that no country should accept such tolls, warning it would set a global precedent. President Donald Trump has made it clear that if a favorable deal with Iran cannot be reached, other options are on the table. Meanwhile, Iran's Students News Agency reported that Tehran is reviewing the latest U.S. proposal, noting it has narrowed the gaps to some extent, but requires an end to Washington's temptation for war. Pakistan's Army Chief Syed Azam Munir arrived in Tehran on Friday for discussions, likely related to his country's role in mediating the indirect negotiations. However, Senator Roger Wicker, chairman of the Senate Armed Service Committee, voiced strong opposition to the talks, asserting that they would be futile and that President Trump should instead allow the U.S. armed forces to neutralize Iran's conventional military capabilities and reopen the strait by force. UPI reports that South Lebanon's vital agriculture sector has become a major casualty of renewed Israeli attacks, threatening the country's food security, economic stability, and cultural heritage. Since March, an estimated 22.5% of agricultural land, covering over 56,000 hectares, has been damaged. This includes banana, citrus, and olive groves, which represent a significant portion of Lebanon's total agricultural area. Critically, nearly 80% of the region's farmers, numbering over 6,500, have been displaced and are unable to access their land. The Lebanese Minister of Agriculture, Nizar Hani, stated that agricultural losses have reached approximately $1.5 billion, contributing to a total war damage exceeding $20 billion. In addition to crops, over 1.8 million livestock and thousands of beehives and tons of fish have been lost. The UN's Food and Agriculture Organization warns that 1.24 million people are projected to face food insecurity between April and August 2026. Farmers are also concerned about soil contamination from alleged white phosphorus and glyphosate use. The destruction of ancient olive trees represents an irreversible loss of biodiversity and cultural heritage, leading to deep psychological impacts on farming communities. Recovery will require extensive international support and many years, even if hostilities cease. Al Jazeera reports that Pakistan's Army Chief, Field Marshal Azam Munir, is currently in Iran as part of ongoing mediation efforts to bring an end to the U.S.-Israel war on Iran, which commenced on February 28. This marks Munir's second trip to Tehran for such a purpose. Pakistan previously facilitated a temporary ceasefire on April 8 and hosted high-level talks between the U.S. and Iran on April 11-12. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio indicated slight progress in the recent talks, speaking before a NATO foreign ministers meeting where the alliance discussed policing the Strait of Hormuz post-war. However, Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson, Esmail Baghaei, stated that the gaps between Tehran and Washington remain deep and significant, and an agreement is not imminent. He clarified that negotiations are focused on ending the war, not nuclear issues. Meanwhile, European Union nations are moving to impose sanctions on Iranian officials responsible for blocking the Strait of Hormuz, a critical shipping lane whose closure in retaliation for the war has caused global energy prices to soar. Global News reports that U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has indicated slight progress in ongoing talks with Iran. though the prospect of a definitive deal or a return to war remains uncertain. His comments come days after U.S. President Donald Trump paused military strikes, citing serious negotiations, despite a history of oscillating between diplomacy and military action. The situation is further complicated by the closure of the Strait of Hormuz by Iran and a U.S. blockade of Iranian ports. Regional tensions are high. Trump's diplomatic overtures have created friction with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Meanwhile, Pakistan is actively engaged in mediation efforts, with officials traveling to Tehran and Beijing to discuss peace. Unnamed regional officials and a Western diplomat also revealed that Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates conducted separate strikes on Iran and its allied militias in Iraq during the recent conflict, highlighting the volatile regional landscape. Major disagreements persist, particularly regarding Iran's nuclear program and the movement of strategic resources. UPI reports that Tulsi Gabbard resigned from her position as Director of National Intelligence on Friday, May 22, 2026. She cited her husband, Abraham Williams' recent diagnosis with a rare form of bone cancer as the reason for her departure. In a letter posted on X, Gabbard stated she would step away from public service to be by his side and fully support him through this battle. President Donald Trump announced on Truth Social that Aaron Lucas, the Principal Deputy Director of National Intelligence, will take over as acting DNI after Gabbard's departure on June 30. Trump praised Gabbard's work, stating she has done an incredible job and we will miss her, and expressed hope for her husband's recovery. Gabbard's initial nomination for the DNI role was controversial, with former Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell voting against her confirmation, citing concerns about her readiness for the position. She previously served in the U.S. House and Hawaii House of Representatives. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.